It's time again for the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast with Dr. John Dentico. The mission of our podcast is to provide 21st century leadership training for a talent-driven world. We help organizations implement strategies and practices designed to attract, hire, engage, and retain top talent while mitigating the effects of burnout. Our guests are experts in various fields of organizational dynamics, including, but not limited to, leadership management, communication, and coaching. They bring a world of knowledge and solutions to our viewers and listeners. I am sincerely grateful for their participation and ideas. So let's dive in. And if you enjoy our podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. We genuinely appreciate your support. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I am Dr. John Dentico, your host. Joining us on the podcast today is Edward Temple, a dynamic and exceptional coach known for his deep passion for unlocking individual potential through personal and professional growth. With the prestigious master coaching credential, by the way, only 4% of the coaches globally have that, Edward is the program chair for the Lethbridge College Leader as Coach program, author of The Leader as Coach, which includes a simple and accessible coach training model called Sprout. Finally, Edward is leading the coach training industry through his app and AI coach, ENZO. The app teaches the Sprout coaching model, and ENZO models the power of coaching by being your personal coach. Additionally, Ed is the board chair for Cause Canada and the past president of the International Coaching Federation Calgary chapter. Edward continues to inspire change and foster growth, not just in organizations, but in the broader community. I am pleased and honored to have him here today with me. Hello, Ed. How are you this Friday?
I'm doing very well, John. Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Great. Looking forward to it myself. I'd like to begin with a question here, or basically a statement, and I'd like to get your reflection or your response to it. Leadership development through coaching, I know, is important to you. Suppose I said that the term leadership development is a misnomer. I personally make the difference between leader development and leadership practice and actions. In my work, I speak about the conversion factor, the ability to convert knowledge into action. I am curious to know how you characterize the interplay between the be and do of leadership.
That's a great question. And one of the things that I really lean on is in coaching, all certified coaches have to go through a process to get the credential. And there's 8 core competencies. And one of the things that's really neat about the core competencies is there's a real distinction between the being of a coach and the doing of a coach. And so it's really embedded in that. And so I'm very mindful of that and appreciate your perspective on that, about how important it is to have a sense of awareness and understanding of how those things interplay with each other. Because there are the things that we do, but that doesn't necessarily fulfill everything. And it's also around, how do you help people grow on the being side of being a leader?
Very interesting. I've always thought that in trying to do the things that make sense as a leader, you, in a sense, for example, you're trying to create a collaborative endeavor. You're trying to create an environment where people come to do their best work every single day. And by doing that, it informs your own personal sensibilities about yourself. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the neat things about our work is a great place to understand who we are. It isn't who we are. And I find in coaching so often, what I'm coaching around is people's identity is so caught up in what they do. And what often comes out through coaching is people realize, wait, no, I'm more than what I do. And that's a great place where coaching really has the chance to launch into those conversations of, who are you beyond the role that you have right now? Because people they care about what they do. They're really consumed by it. It occupies so much of their life. And typically really high capacity leaders, people who've been very successful, often don't necessarily extrapolate those things apart. And so that's often what coaching conversations come to is, who are you besides the role that you have and the thing that you're doing right now? Which is, those are difficult conversations. And sometimes people need some time to process that and figure it out.
Oh, I can imagine. It's interesting that you say this because I had a friend who once told me that when she went to work, she had to put her game face on. I have to put my game face on and I got to be this person. And I always would question her and say, why can't you just be the same person?
Yeah.
Doesn't that work for you? Isn't it good enough? I think it's good enough. I think there's a level, I think people want consistency. They want consistency in another person, especially a person who's a leader. I'd like to move on to the next question if I could.
Yeah.
There seems to be a continuous call for new models of leadership. I see this all the time. We need new models of leadership based on all the things that are going on. As people face the challenges of the VUCA world, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, in which we now live. How would you contrast the characteristics of a new model of, let's say, 21st century leadership compared to the way we have viewed leadership in the past?
Well, I think, it's a really good question. And I think as a coach, the way I approach that is really a posture of listening and understanding and really looking to partner with where people think they are as leaders. And often you're right, like it's so informed by the context that they find themselves on. And there's all sorts of assumptions about that context and what leadership is and what leadership isn't. And so I find as a coach, I come in very curious to understand, what do they think leadership is? What do they think they need? And then as a coach, I want to enter into wherever they are and partner with them around how to help them move forward. And really, the word is getting a deeper, broader understanding about what it means to be a leader, what it means to be a leader in that context, and then how do they bring their whole selves into that context? Because so often we don't necessarily criticize it. And I realize, like, when I'm coaching people all the time, they think the reality they work in is reality. And working with coaches and all sorts of different coachees and all sorts of contexts, I know it's not true. It's what you're used to. It's the water you swim in. So you think this is normal for everyone. My awareness is this isn't normal for other people. This is normal for you. So how do I partner with people to help you just continue to grow and become something new and different that goes beyond the context that they find themselves in?
That's a great observation. A great observation. I think that it's really important for people to understand their own humanity as it relates to the job that they're doing in a management. Let me ask you this quick question. How important do you think trust is in the work?
Well, I think, and I don't know where I heard this from, I think it's the currency of everything that happens. It's the thing that causes things. It's another way is maybe like it's the oil in the machinery that makes things work. And if you don't have that working right, things seize up, they expand, and you have problems. And that's one of the things is around leadership. And I think of coaching as one of the fundamental things about coaching is trust and safety in a relationship. You can't go further than the amount of trust you have in that relationship. And so I'm very mindful of that on my exchanges and when I teach coaching, because my book's about the leader as coach. And so one of the most fundamental things as a leader is, are you trustworthy? And do you have trust currency with people? And to be mindful of, to the degree that you have that currency is to the degree you can be successful. Because if your people don't trust you, if you have that command and control approach and people feel a sense of, I don't want to do something wrong. I don't want to get caught for something. I don't want to disappoint. You're not getting their best thinking. You're not getting people's best because they're too worried about trying to please you. And that's not where innovation, creativity, and drive comes from. It's a matter of how do you be a trustworthy leader? And that's where, like in the coach training is, how do you focus on the development of people, not just getting results, but the idea is that as a leader, I'm here to develop them and help them become their best version of themselves, which will also deliver results at the same time.
Great. Yeah, I agree. I have, in my model of leadership that I espouse, I talk about something called mutual trust. Yeah. So I've seen it now as a multimodal dynamic. I could express it that way. So for me, it's not only important that the people trust the leader and that the leader trusts the person, but if you have a group of 10 or 12 people, they have to trust one another. There has to be this mutuality of trust, because the metaphor I use is the car battery. A battery, if you got a 6-cell car battery, the battery is only as strong as the weakest cell.
Yeah.
So the same thing applies in the workplaces. If there's someone who is not trustworthy, then that has to be dealt with, or else it pulls everything else down.
It does. Yeah.
And I would imagine in coaching, sometimes you see that, and maybe this person is not on board yet, and there may be a good reason for them not to be on board. I'm not picking on them in any sense of the word. There may be some reason why. It could be at home, could be with their significant other, whatever it is. There has to be dealt with in one way or the other. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Great. One of the things I want to move on to, because I myself am getting into this, is the training and development using AI. I saw a recent post that said something to the effect of encouraging people to see AI as a human partner. Do you think this is a wise idea? And in your mind, how would you characterize the separation between the human element and AI?
So that's an interesting statement. My initial reaction is no, it's not a human partner. It's an AI partner. And I'd say I created ENZO with personification that it feels like it's a human interaction. What it's meant to do is just teach you how to use coaching skills, to be coached so you understand how to do it yourself. To me, coaching skills are human skills. And I think it's about returning us back to learning what it is to be human in our corporate spaces. It's about asking good questions, listening, creating trust, and the currency of the relationships is how you get things done. You define it really well in your book around how people collaborate to get things done together, but it's a network of relationships. And the leader, I think for the future, needs to define themselves as, I'm the steward of these relationships. I need to help them get the best. And to me, that's why coaching is the skill of the future. And the interplay with AI, and reason why I created the AI and now I'm writing about the next step, is the next book is about why AI won't replace human leadership. And to me, it comes down to three things that I think AI is not capable of replacing. Doesn't matter how good it gets. It's because these are the elements of leadership and coaching in particular for my world that AI can't do. And it comes down to the first one is presence. AI can't offer presence. And presence is such a powerful thing because it's in presence that transformation happens. And a simple way that happens in coaching is when I ask a question and then I sit there in silence as a person thinks, sometimes for 7, 8, 18 seconds, a long time. That's the moment that an insight comes for people. And when I'm fully present in silence, letting that person have space, it's not a coincidence. That's the magical moment of coaching that people gain insight. And AI can't do that because if it's quiet, you think something's wrong with it. Because people understand it's still a machine. It's not a person. That is, in presence, there's still connection that's happening. And we change through connection, through human relationships, not through our understanding of technology and how we connect with it. Because connecting with technology is more of a two-dimensional thing. And that's the first part, is that presence. The second thing is a sense of identity of who we are. AI doesn't have a sense of identity. It's a program that has algorithms that's fed data. And that's the journey of a leader, is who are you? Why do you matter to the world? And you talk about this in your book about Viktor Frankl's work and Joseph Campbell's. That's a lot of what I'm drawing upon as well, is the importance of meaning in our work, that we bring meaning to our work. And we bring it because of who we are. And so that space of identity, and AI doesn't have that same ability, because part of identity and you figuring out your identity is partnering with the journey I've been on as I try to figure out mine as well. And then the third element is this notion of transcendence, that we want to transcend to something different, that it's a culmination of our lives, that we put together something really that's unique, that we become something different than what we've been in the past. We have that chance to transcend who we were into something else. And also the other element of reaching out to however you might define the spiritual is that longing. I look at an example of that. The future of AI is I think we'll get to Mars really soon. And I think what we'll get to Mars is AI. We will be able to bring AI there, and the travel time and all those things won't become a limiting factor. But why go to Mars? Why go to Mars is a human endeavor. The ability to get there, I think, can be done through AI. And that's the thing, is I think partnering with AI is a great future, just like we partner with technology throughout history. But I don't think AI can do those human things. And to me as a coach, I really want to focus on those things that AI can't replace. And so to me, AI can do 90% of what I'm doing. It does really great coaching. It doesn't do that 10%. And so the future of coaching, the future of leadership is the 10% that AI can't do, which is, I think, is what the question we need to really be considering and reflecting on. What is it that we offer as humans, as leaders, as coaches, whatever it might be, that is really unique and that's really important to be on that journey.
Great answer. That is a great answer. And I appreciate that very much. To me, in the end, it's always about the people.
Yeah.
It's always about the people. And if we lose sight of that, we're going to lose sight of something incredibly critical and important.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm working on now in the presentations that I'm doing is this tectonic transformational shift. It's the way I express it. A tectonic transformational shift in the relationship between the talent and this entity we call the organization. We are everywhere I go, no matter what, if I'm talking to nurse practitioners, pharmacists, people who make fences, engineers, the search for attracting, hiring, and then here's the magic word, retaining talent is taken on a whole new perspective. Some of it, a lot of it, because of the birth rates in the generations that were well below what is needed to fill a country now bound by all these technological and engineering advancement. So this relationship, if you will, between talent, where they now, and I'm not sure, I'm sure some companies are catching on, maybe not everyone, where the talent is dictating the terms by which they will hire on and stay, is a transformational shift. I'm just curious to get your reflections on that statement and those ideas.
Yeah, really good observations, and we could definitely unpack that more. And I think for me, that's where I think the coaching element is that for people to look more broadly around the results that we expect from people when we're leaders, and we're trying to deliver those results through people, and to see that our role as leaders goes beyond just delivering results, is that it's actually that sense of developing people, that people feel a sense of connection and fulfillment in what they're doing. And the old adage that people don't leave organizations, they leave managers. And that's where I think you can't underestimate or undervalue the relational equity you have. That when you're a leader, like that's your primary role, is develop those relationships and really do it in such a way that people want to work together. And I remember the last full-time job that I had as a leader and an executive was, I didn't realize the impact that it would have. Weeks later, when I realized what I really was mourning was the people, not the work. I missed out on showing up every day with the people that I got to work with. And I know that was the impact I had, because that was the feedback that I got from people. Was it just, and I really care about results and I'm a real driver, but I realized it was actually the day-to-day interactions and working with people that was so fulfilling for me and also for others. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that when you're done your career, whether you retire or move to another place, you'll look back and the work will be, well, the work was the work, but the people are the ones that really make that rich every day. And so don't forget about that, and actually look to that as a primary aspect of what you do as a leader, is cultivate those relationships.
You know what occurs to me when you're talking, and by the way, I agree with you. I've always enjoyed working with other people. I've always found that to be the greatest boon to working, was just being with other folks and collaborating and working together and solving problems together. As I'm listening to you in this whole talent thing that I mentioned, what comes to mind is there very well may be a tremendous attraction to an organization if the organization espouses that they have a rather intricate coaching program. That we're not just going to bring you in here and just, okay, here's your desk, see you later. No, we're gonna work to make you better. In fact, of the three things that the different generations are searching for right now, number one is alignment of values with the organization. Number two is involvement in the decision-making processes of that organization. And number three is training and learning that advances their personal and professional lives. So I think I hadn't thought about this before until talking to you, but offering a coaching program, if you will, in an organization may be a wonderful way to retain people in the organization.
And I have an example I can share about that, is that, yes, because coaching is whole life, it is business focused, but also it helps people bring their whole selves. So when we coach and we do coach training, we don't restrict people from talking about just professional issues. No, you can talk about personal, because the training is always real play. You're getting coached on real things. There's no simulations. It's all about, what do you want to get coached on right now? And the organizations where I work with, there's a number of them where their reputation is being people-focused organizations. And the coach training is a way that is deployed. That's a way that we care about people. We expect our leaders to be developers of people, that they realize the relationship's so key. And I was at my gym a couple months ago, and it was early morning workout, and we do a class for an hour. And I remember hearing somebody talk about a job they just got and the reputation. And there's an organization I've worked with for a number of years, and they were bragging about the organization and how people-focused they were. And the person they were telling this to, and I was just sitting there listening to it, I wasn't part of the conversation, and I was thinking, what a testimony to that organization where somebody's going out of their way to brag about how valuable it is to work at this organization because they're people-focused. And I thought, everybody waiting for that class knew that brand and thought, if I was looking for a job, I would seek out that place to work at because of what this person's saying. Unsolicited. They weren't being asked. They were just all of a sudden couldn't help themselves but talk about what this organization was about. And it's a really neat example. I felt really proud to be able to say that, oh, I've done a lot of work there on coach training, and I understand it because part of why I'm doing it is because they value that. They value that before I was doing the work. It was something that was in the leadership that they saw that as important.
Oh, that's great. That's your best advertisement, right? For attracting and hiring people, but word of mouth.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you specifically. Why don't you tell me or describe for me how, because this is another big issue. It's another big issue in the talent marketplace, how coaching can help people overcome burnout.
Yeah, that's a great question. I literally had that conversation this week with one of my clients around what they were experiencing with their leader. And they were experiencing, that's part of what we ended up started talking about, was what are the signs of burnout and how do you care for yourself and what are those things? And I think what coaching does is it helps people become more aware of what's going on inside of themselves. I heard this the other day that somebody talked about they needed to get out of their head to get into their heart. And they're talking about the head stuff, but they need to get past that to realize what they were actually feeling. And that sometimes is an issue. I know for myself, that can be an issue. I'm always very logical, thinking through things, and I forget about, oh yeah, what am I actually feeling right now? But I think coaching really supports and enables that, where people start to talk about where they're at sooner. So they can start looking at going, well, wait a second, if I keep going down this road, it's going to lead me to a place where I will not be able to bounce back, where I don't have the energy. And this one conversation was talking about, I'm putting so much energy into this relationship. I'm not even doing as much as I used to do. And I know my energy is going there. So it's an interesting thing to explore, to understand, so what's going on and what do they need to do to care for themselves, but also take action around what needs to be different in this relationship. So to try different things and to explore it further. And so I think it's an area where you need to put your finger on those things. Coaching opens up the possibility, because again, a non-directive approach is not me observing and pointing out what I think is happening. It's about people discovering it, where they suddenly go, wait a second, oh, this is what's happening to me. These are my feelings, or this is where my energy is going, to then get on the side of what can be done about that. So they can start to problem solve, whether it's accessing resources, talking to somebody, whatever it might be. But I think that's going to help people deal with that before they get to a place of burnout more soon.
Yeah, it's a great answer. And it may be as well beyond their control. And a case in point, I had a previous guest, a wonderful guest by the name of Jimmy Burrows. And Jimmy pointed out to me, I mean, it was one of those whiplash reactions that I had, is maybe it's beyond this person's control in the sense that the organization is burned out, that there are signs, high turnover, 40%, let's say, turnover, people using employee assistance programs, accidents on the job. Things like this are denote that, hey, there's a problem going on that's much larger than this one individual trying to deal with their own specific issues. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think what happens is often in organizations, there are lines that people cross and they're not really aware that they've crossed it. So whether it's like working with a boss or an organization, when it comes around safety, there's certain things that they don't feel comfortable with and they're happening, but they're not even aware that they're crossing these lines that don't allow them to go back so quickly or so easily. And I know somebody who was close to me worked for many years where they were pushing themselves past lines that they were comfortable with, or if they really thought about it, they should be ramping up what they're doing, putting in more boundaries or reconsidering their future around what is happening. And I think what we also need in organizations is for people to voice those things, to bring those to say, wait, I have a concern here, so they can get that. Because sometimes it's out of negligence, sometimes it's out of ignorance, and other times it's out of just a lack of awareness. It's a matter of how do we actually speak with candor to help the opportunity, whether it's with a boss or with coworkers or with a organization and some of the cultural issues that are going on there. We need that feedback to be able to change it, but sometimes that feedback's not heeded. So then you need to consider your future and what are you willing to put up with and what are you not willing to put up with. So you're actually making decisions and you're not going past things without really being thoughtful about it. And you don't even know where you are because you suddenly look back and you go, wait a second, I should have stopped this a long time ago, but now it's too late because you've been putting up with it for too long.
And there may be, and along with that, there may be obstruction hindrances in your way that cannot be solved. Go ahead.
Yeah, and in coaching, that's what you're trying to uncover. Are what are these barriers? There are some barriers that you can't do anything about. These are mitigating factors that just won't be changed. So what do you want to do with it? How will you respond? And other times it's, oh, wait, there's something to be done. You can have a conversation. There's resources. There's people to go to. And so sometimes it's a matter of putting your finger on those things and identifying them and then deciding what is the action I need to take? Who do I need to go talk to? What do I need to do? Whether it's just within my own control or whether I need to go and talk to somebody about those things as well.
I absolutely agree. I think also it opens the door that maybe nothing can be fixed here. That a person may need to move on.
If you can put your finger on it.
Right. Yes. I may need to move on. There's nothing that I can do that I can't. And this is where we get into this notion now that talent is going to dictate a lot of what's going to happen here. And I think organizations who want to thrive are going to have to recognize there's a problem in and of themselves and say, if we don't fix this, we're going to the graveyard of past companies. And maybe we need to do something more about this and really get our arms around it. So we're not having talent just great talent walking out the door. I want to ask you this question here. And I want to talk about ENZO just for a second to give you a chance to talk about ENZO. Your AI coaching app called ENZO. Can you give me an example or just a couple examples of exactly how ENZO might be used in coaching to support your leadership services?
Yeah, ENZO is a great coach. So if you just want a coaching conversation, download the app. It's Coach with Sprout. That's the name of the call. The app is on the store. And it just has great coaching conversations. It understands coaching. It's obviously machine learning, but it has prompting and has been given things so that you will get good non-directive coaching from it. So it augments any time. And the nice thing is that 9 o'clock at night, you want a coaching conversation, pull it out and there it is. 10, 15-minute conversation. You get some value out of it. Again, I'm not threatened, and I don't think other coaches should around replacing what we do as human coaches, because there's those other elements, a different level of conversation that we can have that I think ENZO augments. And so it's that real-time, relevant, when you need it, that you can call on it. You're trying to process things or think things through. I'm maybe not available to you. So one of the things is, for example, you have an important meeting with your boss where something's gone sideways and they want to ask you about it. And you're trying to figure out how do you speak candidly and have the meeting go the way that you think it needs to go. ENZO's a great one just to go, okay, I'm nervous about this meeting that's coming up. I need to make sure this happens and I need to get some clarity on what to do. ENZO will start asking you questions and helping you figure out how to do it. It's not a search engine and it's not going to tell you how to do things, but it's going to help you crystallize and get clarity around what needs to happen, why that needs to happen from your perspective, and then be able to walk away with some real clear action steps or tangible things to get out of it. So that's the thing, is it's meant to do that. But again, I would say for leaders who want to use more questions to develop that relational equity, that's where I think this is meant to help you understand how to ask good questions and how it will build trust with your people, how they will see you as someone to develop them and to be a go-to person, not because you're the answer person as a leader, but because you're the person to help them figure things out.
Great. It'd be interesting to try it. I might try it myself and see where it takes me.
It's surprisingly good. We shouldn't be surprised with what AI is doing. Before this call, I was driving home from downtown to come to this meeting to my home office, and I had something that was weighing on me. So I just pulled out the app and started talking to it, and it's voice prompted, so I could just speak into it. And in the 10, 15-minute drive home, I had some action steps and clarity around what I can do with it. Again, it's just really powerful, and I was amazed at how quickly it could help me get clarity on a topic.
Great. That's wonderful. Wonderful stuff. Let me ask you one more question, and that is, as we continue to emerge from the chaos of the COVID pandemic, so much has changed, and you know that in terms of the work world. So from where you sit, what changes do you see as positive in the workplace, and which ones do you see as perhaps negative, if you see any of those?
I think philosophically, I'll start with that one, a high level one. I think the value and importance of AI, and the reason why I've rushed towards it, is I think what AI introduces is the question of what does it mean to be human? And I think we all need to be focusing and reflecting on that. And that's why I think we look at this as to say, it's a mirror. So if AI can do so many things that we do, then who are we? Why do we matter? And I think that's an important question. Philosophically, I think that's the opportunity with AI. I agree. I think the future is with AI. Everything is going to accelerate now. AI is going to replace so many things that we thought that's the value that I bring. So what we need to figure out is, if that's not the value, then what is the value that we bring? And so like I said, for myself, I think it's this 10%. And I think that 10% becomes more than 10 times as important as it used to be, because of there's other technologies now that can replace that. And so I think the opportunity is change is inevitable. Growth is optional. This is an opportunity for us to grow. And it can be scary, growth and change. Often people resist it because that's where our brains are wired. We resist change, but there's this opportunity to grow through it, which I think that's the opportunity. I think the other thing too is that the negative side, or the scary side of it, is that it requires us to reinvent ourselves. And some people are not interested in that. That's not exciting to them. And it is a requirement. It's not optional. It's one of those things that I think we have to be really careful about just ignoring it until it happens to us, because it's going to happen to all of us. And so we need to figure out a way of, what is it that I need to be figuring out in whatever realm that we work in, because there's going to be such an impact on it. And I think, like, scary wise, the thing that employs the most men is in transportation. The thing that employs the most women is in retail. And so we have to look at those things, that if a lot of that can be replaced by AI, that's going to present a real opportunity and challenge. And so we need to look at those things and say, if that's the case for the future, with automated driving and automated, when you walk into stores, you don't need to talk to anybody. You can just walk out when it scans your credit card. We need to rethink some of those things. So what will be the future? And I think what the future will be was much more about things that are about human connection. So services, experiences, things that bring people together will not disappear, because I think one thing that we learned through COVID is we can do the virtual hybrid thing to a point, and then we've realized that how far that can go. It can only go so far. People don't like it. Most people do not want to be 100% disconnected from people in real world, real experiences. So the virtual is to a point, and I think the landing space is about 60%. And we still need that 40 of actual in an office, actual exchanging with people, because the technology only goes so far. Because at the end of the day, these are all human endeavors. It's not just productivity. And so we need to have those spaces where we get to connect. And so I think the future is around people who help others connect on a human level. That's where there'll be a real explosion of opportunities.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, we can never forget the human elements. One of my favorite sayings is, nothing on the planet will ever replace a human liaison. And what I mean by that is a handshake between people in a room. In fact, one of the questions I'm asking and concerned about now is, okay, in a hybrid workplace, let's say we got them 40% of the time. What are you going to do? What are the activities? Meetings? We could do that here. We could do it on Zoom.
Yeah.
You're going to do more meetings just because you want people gathered around a table? Or is there something else that perhaps coaching fills? Perhaps the simulation work that I do, which is all human-based, no computers, 40 people in a room, where they get a chance to work around a real difficult issue and problem. Maybe that's an experience that people can really gravitate to or really hang on to. I agree. I think some of the points you made are absolutely spectacular. So let me ask you my last question, and that is, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it at a particular problem or issue, what would you wave it at, and why did you choose that?
Good question. So my vision for ENZO in the future, magic wand, is this would be a tool that actually helps drive us back to human relationships, helps us get unstuck on how to have human exchanges. So when I really look at that, my oldest son is 19. I really see that as a possibility for people as they get more and more into their phones and their technology, losing that ability to just be comfortable in human contact and conversations. And so I see that as potentially magic wand, is that this technology will actually help equip us to go back and connect with people in person. And you said it earlier, I think when we're in the office with people, when we're doing that, the value now of a walk and talk meeting, a walk for a coffee meeting, those kinds of exchanges now are elevated. I get excited of going downtown and meeting with somebody because I work from my home office so often. I love the richness of that experience. And so we have to realize that we may have them less than we used to, but now the richness of that will become more potent. And we should look at those things, and that's such an opportunity that I only meet with my team maybe once a week, but I can actually make those connections, whether it's a lunch, a coffee, some sort of exchange where we look to success in a meeting is different than what a success online meeting looks like. And part of that is the exchange that we get to have as humans, is that's part of how we measure success now, is around how did we actually just interact and connect with each other? That's part of that currency, again, of building trust to help us work together virtually, because that's the reality. 60 to 80% of the time, we're just virtually connecting anyways. So let's make the most of that 20 or 30% where we get to be in person together.
And I can't thank you enough. This has been an enlightening podcast episode for me. And I can't thank you enough. This has been spectacular, in my opinion. One of the best I've had the opportunity to do. And you've informed me, you've enlightened me. I've learned a lot. And you've given me a perspective that I did not have before we started this. And that is how AI can actually make us more human, how we can now recognize the importance of our humanity in the plethora of technology that's being offered to us. So I can't thank you enough. You've been an absolutely spectacular guest, and I wish you all the success in the future. Thank you so very much for your time today. Wishing you the best.
Thank you, John. The feeling's mutual. I've loved your book. I've really gotten into it before this, and it's just really helped change my thinking on many things. So thank you so much for that, the work that you put into it, and I've really enjoyed it. And thanks for this conversation. It's been really enlightening for me as well.
Great. Thank you, Ed, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, John.